Have you ever noticed that Aries often seems to understand the heart of a situation before anyone else has even finished explaining it? In astrology, Aries is often described as bold, impulsive, even a little reckless. But in many ancient traditions, Aries was known for something much deeper, a rare kind of intelligence, not the kind measured by school grades or careful planning, but the kind that moves fast, that cuts through confusion instantly, and that quietly, or not so quietly, understands what actually matters in any given moment. An Aries might not be the most patient person in the room. They might not sit back and analyze for hours, but somehow they grasp the core truth immediately. They act, they decide, and piece by piece they reveal a clarity that others take much longer to reach. In this video, we're going to explore 12 signs that reveal why Aries is often considered one of the most psychologically intelligent and instinctively sharp minds in the zodiac. And by the end, you might start seeing Aries in a completely different way. Sign 1. Aries thinks in rapid-fire conclusions. One of the clearest signs of Aries' intelligence is the way they cut to the chase. While most people get lost in overthinking or waiting for more information, Aries tends to trust their first read of a situation. They observe quickly, they process instinctively, and they make a decision before doubt creeps in. They're not the type to hesitate until it's too late. Instead, they instantly run a fast mental check. Does this feel right? Does this person seem genuine? Where is this heading right now? It's almost like they have an internal radar that pings the truth immediately. And because of this, Aries often seems like they've already figured things out while everyone else is still debating. In conversations, in relationships, even in high-stakes moments, they've already landed on an answer that others are still searching for. Yet what makes this even more interesting is that they rarely second-guess themselves. On the outside, Aries can seem impatient or even reckless. But inside, their mind is constantly filtering, assessing, and deciding with lightning speed. That's why people are often surprised by them, because by the time others have finished analyzing, Aries has already acted. Another reason why Aries is often seen as highly intelligent is their instinctive grasp of people's core motives. While most people focus on polite words or social niceties, Aries pays attention to what someone actually wants, and even more importantly, what they're willing to do to get it. They notice the energy behind the words, the eagerness, the hesitation, the hidden competition, or the unspoken challenge. To Aries, these small tells are not random. They are the truth. Over time, Aries learns how to read this energy almost instantly. It's like they're constantly sensing the raw drive behind human behavior. This is why people sometimes feel a bit exposed around them. You might be saying something perfectly diplomatic, but Aries is already picking up on what you're really after. They can sense when someone is performing versus when someone is real. And the most interesting part is, they don't always call it out. They note it, they file it away, and they adjust their approach in real time. That's what makes their insight so powerful, because while others are still decoding the surface, Aries is already responding to what's underneath. Another reason why Aries' intelligence stands out is their fearless willingness to name uncomfortable truths. Most people prefer to avoid conflict. They tiptoe around issues, soften their words, or pretend problems don't exist. But Aries doesn't see the world that way. They understand that avoiding a problem doesn't solve it. It just makes it grow. And instead of waiting for someone else to speak up, Aries is often the one who says what everyone else is thinking, but too afraid to voice. This doesn't make them aggressive. It makes them honest, because when you're willing to name the elephant in the room, things actually start to move. Aries can sense when tension has been building, when words don't match actions, when someone is being avoided for a reason nobody will say out loud. They don't always enjoy being the one to break the silence, but they'll do it anyway. And over time, this ability gives them a powerful kind of intelligence, the intelligence of someone who clears the air so that real progress can begin. Because while others choose to protect comfort, Aries chooses to protect truth. Another layer of Aries' intelligence comes from their emotional directness. While many people hide their feelings, second-guess their reactions, or pretend not to be hurt, Aries tends to feel things fully and honestly. They don't bury their anger, suppress their excitement, or fake their disappointment. To Aries, emotions are not weaknesses. They are data. They understand that a person who never shows frustration is often hiding something, and that someone who never admits jealousy is often blind to their own motivations. Instead of hiding from their own emotions, they express them and move on. This makes Aries incredibly transparent, but also deeply perceptive. In any group, they can tell who is being fake and who is being real because they know what genuine emotion looks like. That's why people often trust Aries even when they're blunt, because an Aries won't pretend to like you while secretly resenting you. And when someone is that honest, it creates a level of clarity that most social games cannot survive. One of the most underrated aspects of Aries' intelligence is their relationship with action. While many people get stuck in analysis paralysis, Aries understands that action itself is a form of thinking. When they move, they learn. When they try something and fail, they instantly gain information that overthinkers never get. Aries is completely comfortable with trial and error, but their action is not chaos. It's intelligent experimentation. When Aries acts, they're not being random. They're testing reality. They push a button to see what happens. They ask a direct question to see how someone reacts. They take a step forward to reveal what was hidden. In many situations, the person who waits too long learns nothing, while the person who acts learns everything. Aries understands this very well, so instead of waiting for perfect information, they generate it themselves. This is why their decisiveness can seem almost magical to others. It's not magic, it's the intelligence of someone who knows that motion creates clarity. And by the time overthinkers are still planning, Aries has already learned what works and what doesn't. Another sign of Aries' intelligence is their ability to detect weakness in logic or character almost instantly. To many people, a confident speaker or a polished presentation seems trustworthy. But Aries rarely sees things at face value. They pay attention to confidence, yes, but also to what backs it up. A bold claim without substance. They feel it immediately. A person who talks big but hesitates when challenged. They notice. These things don't just disappear in Aries' mind. They trigger an internal alarm. Over time, Aries begins to see patterns of bluffing, posturing, and empty promises. And once they see the pattern, they lose respect quickly. This is why Aries is rarely fooled by charm without character. While others might be impressed by a smooth talker, Aries has usually already sensed the gap between words and reality. The world is full of people who sound good, but deliver nothing. And when that gap appears, Aries is often the first to walk away. Another powerful aspect of Aries intelligence is their ability to reset emotionally and move forward. Now, this might sound surprising because Aries is often known as one of the most reactive signs, and that's true. They feel things instantly and intensely, but the difference is they don't stay stuck. While many people carry grudges for years or replay painful moments in their heads, Aries tends to explode, process, and then drop it. They create a clean break between what happened and what comes next. They feel their anger fully, express it honestly, and then they are genuinely done. And because of that, they don't get trapped in cycles of resentment or passive aggression. This gives them a massive psychological advantage. When someone can feel anger, release it, and move on, they don't carry emotional weight that slows them down. In tense situations, while others may sulk or plot revenge, Aries has already shifted focus to the next challenge. Not because they don't care, but because they refuse to be ruled by the past. And that level of emotional mobility creates freedom, because when you're not chained to old pain, you can see every new situation clearly. Another key trait of Aries intelligence is their hunger for direct truth. Most people are comfortable with half-truths or gentle evasions. If something is awkward, they avoid it. But Aries is different. They don't just want a polite answer, they want the real answer right now. When something doesn't add up, they don't let it slide. They ask directly, what's actually going on? Why did you do that? What are you hiding? And they don't accept vague responses. Aries has a natural impatience with deception, even small social lies. This is why they are often drawn to situations that require courage, confrontations, difficult conversations, moments where most people stay silent. For Aries, the truth isn't always gentle, but it's always useful. They would rather be shocked by reality than soothed by a lie, and over time, this mindset builds a very powerful kind of intelligence, the intelligence of someone who refuses to be managed or misled. Another reason Aries stands out intellectually is their natural instinct to test boundaries. Most people accept rules, traditions, or the way things have always been done. If something seems established, they follow it. But Aries rarely does that. When they encounter a rule, they instinctively ask, why? Does this actually make sense? What happens if I push against it? Instead of accepting limits, they probe them. They try small challenges, ask uncomfortable questions, and see what bends and what breaks. And they don't do this to be difficult. They do it to understand. What makes this even more interesting is that Aries doesn't usually announce that they're testing something. They simply act. They go first. They take the risk that others are afraid to take. And over time, those small tests reveal the truth. Which rules are real, which are just habits, and who actually has the courage to stand by their convictions. By the time others are still following instructions, Aries has already figured out what's worth respecting and what's not. Another unique aspect of Aries' intelligence is their ability to learn through direct confrontation. In many ancient traditions, Aries is associated with the warrior archetype, not in a violent sense, but as a symbol of facing challenges head-on. While many people avoid arguments, hard conversations, or competitive situations, Aries tends to walk toward them. When someone challenges them, they don't retreat. They engage. What went wrong? What did that conflict reveal? Who actually has strength here? Instead of seeing disagreement as something to fear, Aries often sees it as something that clarifies. And over time, this creates a powerful form of intelligence. one that is forged in real friction, not just polite agreement. Each argument becomes a lesson about who people really are. Each competition becomes a test of real ability. This is why Aries often emerges from conflict with a sharper understanding of both people and situations, because they don't avoid the fire, they walk through it. Another powerful trait behind Aries' intelligence is their deep trust in first instincts. While many people overthink, seek outside opinions, or wait for permission, Aries often pays attention to that very first gut feeling, the one that comes before doubt, before fear, before social pressure. And what's interesting is that this isn't reckless. Their first instinct is often built from countless past experiences of trusting their own judgment and being right. So when Aries says, "I don't trust this," they're usually picking up on something real, a subtle dishonesty, a hidden agenda, or a fundamental mismatch. Maybe it's a slight hesitation in someone's voice. Maybe it's a pattern they've seen before. Or maybe it's just an unexplainable sense that something is off. Instead of talking themselves out of it, Aries tends to trust that feeling. They act on it. They remove themselves, speak up, or change direction. And more often than not, their first instinct proves accurate. This is why their decision-making can seem almost prophetic, because they're not just thinking, they're trusting a lifetime of hard-earned instincts. Another defining trait of Aries' intelligence is their understanding of momentum. Not just momentum in the obvious sense, like starting a project or leading a team, but the subtle power of being the one who moves first. Aries tends to understand that hesitation is often the biggest risk. While others wait for perfect conditions, Aries knows that action creates its own energy. They understand who is waiting for permission, who is afraid to start, and where a single bold move can change everything. And because of that, they rarely waste energy waiting for someone else to lead. Instead, they create the spark. They speak first. They move first. They take the risk that breaks the stalemate. This creates a form of intelligence that doesn't need to be complicated to be effective, because real progress isn't always about knowing everything. It's about having the courage to begin. So when people talk about Aries being intelligent, it's not just about logic or knowledge. It's about a different kind of awareness, the ability to see what needs to be done, the courage to do it immediately, and the honesty to face whatever comes next. From thinking in rapid-fire conclusions to reading core motives, from naming uncomfortable truths to trusting first instincts, Aries' intelligence is not cautious, but it is powerful. And often, it's underestimated. If you've recognized these traits in yourself or in someone you know, then you've probably seen just how different this kind of intelligence really is. And maybe that's the point. Not all intelligence needs to be slow. Some of the most powerful minds are the ones moving boldly while everyone else is still thinking.